From Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, USA, and the home of hot chicken, it's the Rick Altizer Show. Sit back, buckle up. Rick will talk with the movers, shakers, and creators who put Christ in Christian entertainment. He's a man who's clear so the world can hear. Here's Rick Altizer.
Hey, thanks for joining me today. All right, so I have on my show today someone, I've never had this before. I have a gold medal winner on my show. I've never had that before.
It's all up from here.
So I want you to think, ice skating. I want you to think backward flips. I want you to think that spinny thing move, and you're going to get Scott Hamilton.
If you say that technical, you're going to lose your audience, just so you know.
Spinny thing move. All right, next we've got, here's Scott. He's making the turn. He's done the triple Lutz.
The spinny thing move.
Here's his double axel, and now the famous spinny thing move.
Yeah, that would have got me out of my seat at NBC in a hurry. Yeah.
The spinny thing move. I'd see you do that thing, and you start going around and around, and then your hair, that was back when you had hair. Yeah, your hair would kind of float.
Yeah, that's what made it fall out.
And it was the spinny thing move. Yeah. and the hair would go up, and then you would become a blur.
Yeah.
I mean, watching on TV, of course, it was standard def back in those days, but you were a blur. And so I want to ask you, doing the spinny thing move.
Do you get dizzy?
Do you get dizzy?
I do. Well, not so much. Your body can get kind of used to anything. So if I spin counterclockwise, I can usually recover really quickly from that. If I spin clockwise, because I didn't really ever do that, like you jump and rotate counterclockwise, you spin counterclockwise. But if I were to do things the other way, now I'm like sick as a dog. It's it doesn't like that at all.
Because, I get motion sick, and I'm seeing you go around and around and around, and it's faster and faster to where I can't even see you. It's like, okay, I would be so sick. And then you put out your foot and your hand up in the air.
Ta-da.
Big smile, ta-da. And you're sitting there. It's like, and he's not throwing up and he's not falling over.
Well, what happens is you're dizzy for just a second, and then you recover really quick. And sometimes if I had to jump right after that, and rotate again and make sure I had my balance right, sometimes I would spin really quickly, like 2 revolutions the other way, just to kind of sort out my inner ear stuff, and then I go right after the next thing.
So, okay, I didn't know to get into the spinny thing move.
Isn't that crazy? The spinny thing move. Yeah, it's different than the Iron Lotus at the end of Blades of Glory, but, it's...
Yeah, maybe that's the title. You've done like 3 books? Have you done 3 books?
Yeah, I've done 3 books.
3 books. I think maybe your
pretty
4th
good
book.
For a semi-functioning... illiterate, but it's okay.
Well, I think that's your new book, The Spinny Thing Move.
The Spinny Thing Move.
I think
and how to perfect it for the lay person, for dummies, right?
So, of course, we're talking about gold medal winner, ice skating. For those who don't know who Scott Hamilton is, in '84, he won the gold medal. I think you took the world and the U.S. championships 4 years in a row, 81, 82, 83, 84. So you kind of understand about winning. You understand what it takes to get there. So we'll talk about a little bit of that.
Yeah, I also understand what it feels like to lose badly and often.
So there you go. We'll talk about that too. So let's start off. You were adopted.
Yeah, 6 weeks of age. I remember like it was yesterday. Yeah, I was kind of an unintended, I guess, ultimately unwanted child, born to a mother who really had probably other options, but grateful for life and really, adopted by the only parents that I would ever know or will ever know, and they were amazing. They were 2 school teachers from Northwestern Ohio, and grew up wonderfully, and and then I guess around age 4 or 5, I started showing real signs of stress. So I had a childhood illness. Took me in and out of hospitals for 4 years. Never could come up with what was wrong, ever. And then just to give my parents a morning off, I started skating at the brand new skating rink at Bowling Green State University, and liked it. It was something I could do as well as the well kids and as well as the best athletes in my grade. So kind of had my first taste of self-esteem, and then my health started to improve miraculously. So it was like nothing else worked. This works. Guess what? You're a skater. And dabbled in hockey for a few seasons and did both because I knew ultimately I was a figure skater, always going to be a figure skater. But kind of to end the teasing, from the hockey players, I played hockey for 3 years. And hung in there. I was a better skater than all of them, but small. And there was checking like day one, which was not fair. And so, I joke that I played for 2 neck braces and then went back to figure skating full time.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, did the illness, was that a brain tumor? Yeah.
It was when they did the biopsy 2004, right? So I'm now a father and married and everything else. I was symptomatic and they did a brain biopsy because they detected the tumor through a scan. They realized that it was a craniopharyngioma and I was born with it. So the only option I had back then was gamma knife radiation. And then when it came back 6 years later, the only real option was surgery. And then when it came back 6 years later, for me, the only option was prayer. And so I've been, eliminating, kind of anything physiologically that it likes, like sugar and a lot of carbs and all that stuff. And I've, really just do as much high pH water as I possibly can. Just trying to just do whatever I can that won't make it happy, right? It doesn't like
don't want
that.
to give it food.
Yeah. And so it's been kind of vacillating. It shrinks and it grows and it shrinks and it grows. And last scan, it shrunk. So
praise the Lord.
It shrank. So, praise the Lord. It's like the first time it shrank and then the second time it shrank again, I was on my knees. It was just such an unbelievable miracle. I asked the surgeon, I said, can you explain this? And he just shrugged his shoulder and smiled and said, God.
Amen.
It's good enough for me.
Amen.
Way good enough for me. So whatever's going on with it, I can't really look back on my health struggles and say, have a pity party or anything, because honestly, without the brain tumor, none of the good things in my life would have happened. So I'm really grateful for it. I affectionately call it my noggin nugget. And, I just keep an eye on it. If I become symptomatic, I'll have to do something about it. But right now, it seems to be just sort of behaving itself.
So even with the brain tumor as a child, did that have impact in your growth?
That's that's how it's detected now. Is if there's a child showing those signs of stress, they'll do a brain scan. And I don't know. I joke that maybe it was crashing, Gary Ziegler's bike into that telephone pole where I went head first. Maybe I smushed the brain tumor and it stopped doing its mischief. I don't know. But for whatever reason, it was this adventure, that I've been on. It's really been alarming and wonderful and shocking and, hysterical just to kind of see, how God's been working in my life and refining me, through all these tough times.
It's interesting. You see as a child, you had this physical issue that, okay, maybe you didn't grow as much, and then you were in and out of hospitals for 4 years, and then it led you to skating. So, and if anybody who understands the necessity of suffering and barriers to overcome, you know that, and you know the importance of that.
Well, it was funny. I did a TED Talk at the TEDx event last year in Nashville, and I said, I just say yes all the time. It's kind of ridiculous because I realize nothing comes really from a no except nothing, right? So I ran into this guy at the BMI honors and the kind of the writers, right. Publishing awards, and he just said, hey, I'm doing the TEDx Nashville. Would you give a TED Talk? And I go, sure. And I was like, I'm easily the dumbest person to ever do a TED Talk, right? So I just, what am I going to talk about? And he goes, you can talk about anything you want. And it's like, what? Help me, please, because it's kind of like TED Talks are done by these uber thinkers and all that stuff. And so all I could in my mind, all I could think of to talk about, and it was really weird, was like I felt like, is it a downer to talk about suffering? And so I went into TED and I went on the website and I typed in for a search keyword suffering. Nothing came up.
Wow.
So it's either that nobody really had anything to say, or they didn't have the guts to do it. So I did my talk on suffering. And, kind of the importance of it and kind of the ways to look at it and ultimately how to deal with it, And I was really happy with it. It wasn't a downer at all. It was just like, guess what? How many people in this room have suffered? And if you're not raising your hand, you're either lying or not telling the truth, right? or not listening. And it's like, come on, people, this is part of life. We're going to suffer. And here's kind of my way to identify it and embrace it. Because it's way better to embrace suffering than try to, kind of like deny it, because it's got to do the work. It has to do the work.
And just think of all the suffering and challenges and barriers you had to overcome as a skater to become successful, and even in our lives with Christ, he was the suffering servant.
Oh, and no one will ever suffer to that level.
Yeah.
Ever. And it's like, okay, who am I? And, I always get inspired by people around me. This Joel Sonnenberg, who's burned over 85% of his body and is just living life extraordinarily, right? I look at Kyle Maynard, who climbed Kilimanjaro, which a lot of people have done, but I don't think anybody's done it without arms or legs. And I look at, a lot of people, Travis Roy, whose dream was to play high school hockey, played 11 seconds, head first into the boards, and quadriplegic, graduated on time. It's like, these are the people that, when I'm really thinking about, oh, woe is me, I look at those guys who've done things that I can't even imagine, and their challenges were much more significant than mine. And I ran across this really outrageous study by a Harvard professor who measured the levels of depression around the world, and the United States has the highest levels of depression. And he basically said, because we tend to compare ourselves to others more than other nations. Like developing countries, they're trying to survive. They don't care what somebody else has got. They just need food and water, right? And healthcare. Right. So we look at our lives, and it's like, he said, if you look at like a person that has a $500,000 house, and there's, it's a nice house, and they're surrounded by $1 million homes, they feel like they're lacking in something, and that could be cause for depression. So he calls depression a luxury disorder. I think there's clinical depression. There's something that's much more, sinister than that. But at the end of the day, when we look at those challenges that come into our lives, it's how we respond to them. If we can respond in a way that allows us to live a little bit deeper, and in a way just recognizing that we can rise above our situations, then good things can happen in our lives.
So, I say we live in a society that's self-centric. We selfies, self-magazine, everything is self. And I think that is the recipe for depression, because when you have a self-centered existence, you're frustrated, then you become discouraged, and you become depressed. I mean, it's only an other-centered existence, really. And I think in America, we have so much luxury that we are self-absorbed. But while we're talking about others and
let's change the subject.
Other-centeredness, I do want to talk. You're listening to the Rick Altizer Show on Bot Radio, and my guest today is Scott Hamilton. And you know what's coming up in about 8 days at the Bridgestone Arena is Scott Hamilton and Friends. Going to be Sunday, November 24th. For his CARES Foundation, which we're going to talk about. But we've got ice skating happening.
Yeah.
We've got Sheryl Crow. Then there's some more ice skating happening. Then Kenny Loggins and Mercy Me, Gavin DeGraw. Say that 3 times real fast. John Elefante, good friend of mine, Runaway Jane. Jonathan Cain from Journey. Kid, don't stop believing.
Yeah, no, it's pretty awesome.
All there. And then there's some ice skating going on.
Yeah.
So that's all, but that's going to your CARES Foundation. And that's in 8 days, Sunday, November 24th at Bridgestone Arena. And, if you're interested in that and you want to get some more info on that, you can go to the Bridgestone box office, and you can find info on getting tickets there, Ticketmaster.com, or going to scottcares.org. So lots of ways to get info on how to go see this. Tell me a little bit about this event and this foundation, the Scott Hamilton Cares Foundation.
Well, it's my goodness. I lost my mother to cancer, so I became a fundraiser. I survived cancer, so I kind of took the fundraising more towards activism and trying to change cancer for the better. There's so many gaps in the community. There's so many lack of information, lack of support, and then research. Is ultimately what's going to change it for the better. So for 15 years, I worked as an initiative after I survived cancer for the Cleveland Clinic Cancer Center, and 5 years ago, I took the brand and I became an independent foundation. So we joked that we were one of the oldest startups in the cancer business. And it was there that we said, what is our focus? What is going to be our focus in this new foundation that's coming in that has, kind of history with building all these other things? And I said, I've traveled a lot. I've met a lot of people. I've had chemo. My mom had chemo. She wasn't survive. She didn't survive. I did. I don't really think that, where we are with science, that filling our body with poison is the best we can do. And I'd learned from different cancer centers around the country that there was an emerging thing. There was this idea of teaching our T cells, our immune system, building blocks of our immune system, to recognize the cancer and destroy it. Our bodies created it. Let's teach our bodies how to destroy it. I always thought that was kind of unique until I started talking to all these PhD people and all these other people. And it's just we can train our T cells to fight cancer. It was proven about 2.5, 3 years ago with CAR T therapy for lymphoma, where they take these programmed T cells, they're donor T cells, and they put them in your body, and their whole job is to look for that cell and destroy it and discard it. And it's remarkable that what we can do with this incredible, they map the genome, right? We know what our DNA looks like. The immune system is 100 times more complex.
Amazing.
But it's really cool that once we are able to find the proteins, find the identities of those cancer cells, and teach T cells to hunt them and destroy them, now it's a whole shift in the way people survive cancer. It's not rising above the collateral damage of the current, treatment options. It's creating new options that allow our own bodies to destroy the cancer and leave the rest of our body alone. The whole idea behind chemotherapy and traditional radiation, man, it's tough. It's hard and I've had them both, right? And it leaves a mark. And there's a lot of, aspects of those treatment options that, side effects, long-term, conditions. And it's we can do better than that. We really can. And so we launched the CARES Foundation purely getting behind specific targeted therapies and immunotherapy and the awareness of proton therapy, because it's a very exact science in radiation side. Are you
supporting that research? What are you doing with the foundation? Or are you just doing awareness? What
No. We support research, and we're a good citizen. So our idea as a foundation is there's a lot of different foundations doing a lot of work, and we can collaborate with those, and specifically in our wheelhouse. And we found that, oh my goodness, the V Foundation for Cancer Research are extraordinary at, we can help them, they can help us lift these research programs that are extremely expensive. We can take a chunk, they'll match, we can go in together, and we can really start making a difference in the cancer community. Our first major gift was for, pediatric medulloblastoma. And it was one where all they could do is just bathe the child's brain in radiation and just try to kill it. So now, hard, yeah. If they're able to be successful there, that same type of cell exists in glioblastoma, which has got very poor survival rates. So, now we're going after the bullies. We're going after the big, bad bullies that really take people quickly. And
the godfathers.
Right. And my mother, the type of cancer she passed from, now, this was 77, and all they had was chemotherapy. The biggest advancement for her type of cancer is in immunotherapy. So we're really, we know this is the right way to go. We're not site specific like breast or lung or brain or whatever. We're kind of let's go after the most promising science now, and then the rest will follow. And hopefully we'll be successful in creating pathways to treat all forms of cancer through the immune system.
And so then this event, Scott Hamilton and Friends, coming up on Sunday, November 24th. Tell me then a little bit about this event and what this event is about.
Well, it's crowdsourcing, right? Danny Thomas was, built St. Jude. It's just that I'd rather have 1 million people give me $1 than one person give me $1 million, right? So cancer touches everyone, and we know that by bringing people together to celebrate life and to celebrate hope that for a better future, that we need to create events. We need to bring people together. And so this event really combines the music industry and Olympic sports, right? Mm-hmm. So we got these Olympic skaters. They're all champions. They're all gold medalists. They're all, won medals either nationally, internationally, globally, or on the Olympic stage. And they come together to interpret the music that's being performed live in front of the audience by iconic artists. So Cheryl was my, kind of my first follower here in, Nashville, and she's like a member of the family, and I adore her. There isn't a finer person I've met anywhere, except for maybe my wife, But, Cheryl's become a member of the family, and she supports everything, we do. And so she'll be there to host on the stage side, and I'll be hosting on the ice side. And it's just a great partnership to create an event like no other. There's no one else does this. Only here. Only Nashville, only Bridgestone Arena, only the Sunday before Thanksgiving. And it's like nothing else you've ever seen. It's almost amazing. Sensory overload. To see skating, and we turned Bridgestone into a theater. The glass is gone. There's seats in front of the board, so it's really an intimate environment. And we just do everything we can to blow the roof off the place.
Awesome. Are you still skating?
No, I get out there maybe a little bit, do a little kind of a cameo. But yeah, I'm 61. Yeah.
I mean, skating is the amount of just physical endurance what you need. It's highly physical.
Well, I toured for 20 years, so I milked that cow dry. There's nothing left in the cow, right? So occasionally, last year, I went out and I had a lot of foot pain, and I had a treatment by one of our fundraisers, and he just got my foot moving again, and I felt like I was 20. And I went out and I did this step out for the one of these group numbers, and it was like, I feel great. This is awesome. Okay, that's enough. And it was really fun to kind of get out and just do footwork and spin and do all that stuff. So it was really fun. But who knows what the future holds? Right now, it's just I've taken a lot of damage, with all this stuff that I've done through surgery after surgery and radiation and chemo and more surgeries. And so my body's kind of like, can we just not do that right now?
Right.
And it's like, okay, really, it'd be, because, when you look at the investment and the return on investment, it's like 500 times the work for 3% of the return. My knees don't like it. My ankles don't like it. My back definitely doesn't like it. And it's just like, okay, we can do a little bit, but not a lot.
Yeah. So no backflips? You're not going to do anything?
I did my last one about 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago. And that was 51 Good. Doing backflips. It was like that guy that does the Six Flags commercial with the, right? Yeah. That was me for about 3 months, and then I tore everything in my right shoulder, and my brain tumor came back. So it was like back to healthcare, support the healthcare institution, and then recovery from that was challenging, but here we are.
When was your last spinny move?
Last spinning move, I'll do it every now and then when I'm on the ice at the skating at the academy that I do at the Predators at the Ford Ice Centers in Antioch and Bellevue. I'll get on the ice and I'll show them. I go, here's how to really crank that sit spin. Here's how they really do that stuff. So we got great coaching in both. We got the best learn to skate, and now we have an elite program for kids that want to try to really go as far as they can. And hockey is thriving. My son's in the junior Preds, and so I'm spending a lot of time in the rink and loving it. And it's just been great to be a partner with the Nashville
You got three
Predators.
boys?
I have 3 boys and a girl.
Okay.
And the 3, my 2 older boys and my daughter are soccer players, and my youngest plays hockey.
Okay, so you just got one skater in the family.
One rink rat.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, you are listening to the Rick Altizer Show. My guest today is Scott Hamilton, gold medal winner.
Holy cow.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And
still working on that. I've been over.
You know what? We're running out of time.
Okay.
Can you believe that? This goes so fast.
It does.
Can we have you back next week?
Absolutely.
Okay, so next week we're going to because I want to talk about your faith in Christ. I want to talk about how you came to faith, and then how you navigate your faith with the world you're in. So that will be a little teaser for next week.
Okay.
But we have been talking about a show that really you might want to think about checking out, and it's called Scott Hamilton and Friends. It's in 8 days, Sunday, November 24th, Sunday before Thanksgiving, 5 p.m. at Bridgestone Arena. And it's got Sheryl Crow, Kenny Loggins, Mercy Me, which they're great. Gavin DeGraw, and also quite a few figure skaters that you're going to want to enjoy seeing. They're skating, too. A lot of spinny moves going on.
A lot of spinny moves and a lot of good music. And again, it's sensory overload. It's spectacular.
It's spinny moves to music.
Yeah.
You know?
So I got to bring everybody together, and there's, oh my goodness, there's not a bad seat in the house. And we were kind of a little bit late launching this year because when you're asking artists to do a free 95, it takes a while to fill that.
So Kenny Loggins will be singing Footloose, come on and do your spinny moves. So anyway, okay, so that's, you can get info at Bridgestone Box Office, Ticketmaster.com, and ScottCares.org. Thank you. Thanks for being here so much.
Oh, my pleasure. See you next week.
If there's a show you've missed, you can go to my website, rickaltizer.com, and catch up. Or you can listen to my podcast in iTunes or wherever you hear your podcasts. Just search for The Rick Altizer Show. Altizer is spelled Altizer. I want to thank you for listening. Hey, would you tell a friend about this show and share the love? Be sure to check us out again next week as we discuss how we communicate the gospel through media to our culture. Let's be clear so the world can hear. I'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening.